Welcome to the Bariatric Bear. It's been about a week and a half since the surgery, and I have a lot to talk about. So let's get to it. It's been a week and a half since the surgery, and I have a lot to talk about. Now, as a standing warning, I'm going to be showing a lot of photos of me pre and post surgery. If you're squeamish at all, don't worry. I'll give you a warning, and there'll be a timestamp up here to jump to. I'll try to avoid as much gory stuff as possible. Okay? Cool. The morning of the surgery, I was nervous, excited, and I really wanted to get the show on the road. The surgery was at 1 p.m., so luckily I was able to have a little bit of breakfast before my 6 hours of fasting kicked in. But soon enough, after pottering around in the morning, I made it to the hospital, got checked in, and I was ready to go. Now, about a half hour before the operation was to take place, my surgeon came in and did a check to make sure everything was fine, and then he brought out a marker. Now, these photos are the last photos of my belly pre-surgery. So, let's have a look. As you can see here, we see a bisecting line across the midsection, and that's where the initial cut is going to go. Goodbye, belly button. I hardly knew you. And as you can see, there are a lot of vertical lines also in place to kind of help line up my skin once it's cut and needs to be reattached. If you look closely at the underbelly, you can actually see where the other mark is going to be. Everything in between those two is going to be cut away, and then everything is going to be stretched and be knitted together. From the sides here, you can also see kind of where those cuts are going to go, and you can begin to see where they're going to join up after the two cuts are made. And in the back, you can kind of see where the back will stop with the cut. Now, as a reminder, I'm not doing a full circumferential lipectomy. I'm only doing about 80%. Soon enough, I was ready to go, and I walk into the operating theater. I get settled down. The anesthetist, or the anesthesiologist for us Americans, says, "I want you to think of something pleasant." And so I think about my spouse and my dog. And then suddenly I'm awake 10 hours later. Now, let me tell you, it's so weird being under anesthetic for so long, because you wake up and you just realize, right, I've been through this thing. I look down and I see my compression garment. I'm kind of in a weird state, and so I call the nurse, and she comes in and says, "Everything's fine. You came out of surgery and you were quite a bit nauseous, so we gave you some stuff to let you sleep." And sleep I did. The surgery took 5.5 hours, and everything went very well. I ended up having 3 drains placed in me, 1 on my right side and 2 on my left. And I was really groggy and tired, so I took some more pain medication. I actually threw up because tramadol is not a friend of mine. And then I went to sleep. The next morning, I was ready to conquer the world, but in reality, I was anything but. After getting the catheter taken out, weird, I wanted to get showered and start moving around. Now, the doctor said that I shouldn't really be moving around too much, but he wanted me out of bed at least a little bit and to have a shower. So this photo is actually one of the first photos I have of me post-surgery. One of the things you'll notice right away is that I'm actually quite hunched over. Because of the surgery, I couldn't really stand up straight, and it took me several days before I could. So I was walking around much like an old man, hunched over and needing a walker. These next photos are fairly extensive. I am naked, but don't worry, I do clear out any sensitive areas. But these are the first photos of me post-surgery. Don't worry, look at the timestamp. We'll keep you nice and sorted. All right, let's do this. All right, so one of the first things I notice with me is I'm actually quite swollen. There's a lot of fluid buildup in my body as my body starts to relearn how to drain this fluid that's being built up. Because things have moved around, it basically needs to figure out how to use the lymphatic system again in those areas since things have been jostled around. This is going to take about 4 to 6 weeks. So I'm actually still quite bloated. I'm carrying about 2 to 3 kilos worth of fluid in me right now, which is kind of annoying because there's still some things I can't quite wear. You can see from the sides and on the back, things are all bandaged up, and it is a little bit disconcerting. I'm still kind of hunched over, and I'm ready for my shower. From this point onwards, I pretty much have the compression garment on 24/7. If I'm not showering, I'm wearing it. Again, the garment is there to help keep things in place, but also kind of keep the fluids in the right places so the lymphatic system can do its thing. And 2 days later, I leave the hospital. From this point, I go to my in-laws' place and I go for some rest and recuperation. From here, it's basically a long, slow recovery. Each day is a little bit better than the next, with the exception of the third day. The third day was kind of shit. To be blunt, basically what happened was the anesthetic was all run out. My body was really feeling it, and well, it was not the best of days. So I kind of laid low that day. But ever since then, it's been a nice, slow, steady recovery. On day 6, I had my first post-surgery appointment, and I had my first drain removed from the left side. A few days later, I had the right drain removed. So now I'm only down to 1 drain. Throughout this process, I felt a little bit like a vampire buffet with these blood bags hanging out of me. Even though they're not really blood, they're only serous fluid. They're only stained with blood, which kind of is creepy. But let me show you how it works. So right now, I have this drain, and it goes into this nice little bulb. Now the bulb is pressurized so it can suck the fluid out, and there's actually quite a bit in here today. And then below that is a bag to hold said serous fluid. Now in between here is a nice little, I almost say winch or anything like that, but the idea is that it keeps the stuff here in the bulb so I can measure down here. So right now I have about 60 mils in here, and I'm actually going to drain this in here now. So I just move that over, and then I just push it through. It's really creepy. So now that it's all pushed through, still pressurized, noticed. Slide it back into place so it doesn't drip through. And then I record. So right now I'm sitting at around 110 mils. So I actually did about 50 mils yesterday, which is actually a little bit more than I have been. Because of that, I may not get this removed on Monday, as my doctor kind of wants, but I may have it until the following Thursday. If it does lose suction, I can resuction it here. So it's a nice little system that I have, and once this bag is full, I just unscrew this and put on a new bag, which I'll do after the video today. So I've been having these on me for the last week and a half, and it's kind of a weird feeling because you still feel like you're like this medical experiment gone awry. And it's also a little bit irritating because it's literally sticking out of the side of my belly. So it's really quite interesting to go through. So overall, my recovery is going really well. One of the things I have noticed in the past couple of days is that my nerve endings seem to be coming alive, and I am itching beyond belief. There's a lot of itching, and luckily I have layers of protection to keep me from scratching or exacerbating my wound as it heals, but otherwise things are going well. Now, my surgeon has told me that my recovery is in the span of months instead of weeks. So this video series is going to take a little bit longer than I anticipated. But this time I've talked about my physical changes. Next video, I'll talk a little bit about all the mental stuff that I am working through as I'm recovering from this. So if you're enjoying what you're watching, please like and subscribe to the Bariatric Bear. And as always, I hope you have a great day and take care.